All right, guys, welcome to our continuing progression here on our work capacity day. So, here's what we're going to cover. As we got together last week, what we did was we've been talking about energy systems, and we have been talking about sport specific energy systems. And then last week, we differentiated and we looked at football as a sport and the conditioning drills I would do and the yards that I would cover for my conditioning. And then also, we did soccer as the comp on it. So we were looking at two completely different sports. What I want to verge over to today is I want to start making differentiations between the high-end sports performance work that we do and then the other work that we consider work capacity, or we would generally just call it conditioning or conditioning for sport or preparedness for sport. So there's a lot of different terms out there. If you guys are out doing some research on your own, here at Vice, we call it work capacity. So it's your body's ability to do sustained work over time. Some might call that aerobic conditioning. I don't think it's remotely close to that. I think it's completely different because we're asking you to do different tasks. There's also physical preparedness for sport. There's a variety of different terms that you can find out there that a lot of strength coaches use. I found they're all generally close to the same principles, albeit maybe slightly different, a couple different foundation differences. But from our perspective, we look at work capacity and conditioning. We want to do things that are energy system specific, that are timed interval specific, things that we can track and monitor basically. So the easy way to think about it is in distance covered. So that's why I broke it down last week the way that I did is if you can literally see 1020s, 1040s, 1000s, right? You can do the math really, really easy and figure out how many total yards that you covered for that day. So then you can more readily program and progress, not overtrain, not overdo it, and work up to a peak with all the other variables kind of coinciding with that. So what I wanted to cover today was just slightly different, modified version of our work capacity in which we can do some sport-specific maneuvers, but we're doing them for longer basis of time, so longer durations of time, I should say, and then how these things work together and sync together. So this would be work that I would do at the end of a workout. And again, in the hierarchy of how we put programs together, all of our high intensity, high end volition work is done on the front end of our workout. So when we get warmed up, hit our dynamic stretches, get everything mobilized, we got a good sweat going, that's when we want to hit the highest focus, mental focus part that we've got to do for that day. So if it's plyometrics, that way we get the most out of plyometrics. If we're doing a like high weight, low volume squat cycle, like if we're hitting 10 sets of 2 on a speed squat, that's what we're going to do first that day for strength. These exercises would be after the auxiliary, after the core and injury prevention stuff. We're heading into work capacity and conditioning. So all I wanted to do is kind of break down 4 different things that we do and the time cycles that we would work within. Again, keeping the same premise that a lot of the work and conditioning work that we do, rarely is it in that frontal plane that we've kind of been discussing the past couple weeks. Most of it is all sagittal. So even the work capacity stuff that we did last week, it was all running. And so from that standpoint, I just wanted to make the point that it's easy to track, monitor, progress, recover, and have a strategy with, right? This is a little bit more complicated. So I think of it as total cumulative time of work, not necessarily what I'm doing, but how long I'm doing it. And so if I do 5 minutes of work capacity work today, I can incrementally program that up over time to peak and then taper and then prep for a season. And that's kind of our wave that we work within, so we keep within that structure. So behind me, what I've got 3 red hurdles set up. They're for reference point right now. And again, I'm assuming if you guys got hurdles, that's great. But I've also got towels in their place because you can use towels as your reference point. You can use hash marks, you can use cones, you can use whatever you got at home, right? Just some random stuff you can find in your drawer, I'm sure. You can use pencils, use anything, but I like to use reference points because reference points equals repeatability and it equals a reinforcement on a pattern, right? So it's not just a blind, I'm gonna get this certain thing done. You actually have this proprioceptive awareness that you're improving and implementing upon so that you can get to a position where everything that you're doing it has a mental purpose to it. And again, end of the day, like I don't know how many times we say train with purpose around here, but everything that we do has a point and it has a purpose. I really don't believe in doing anything arbitrarily. I don't believe in doing anything in a punitive way. I just think that's stupid. It's negative reinforcement. And look, I can give you plenty of sarcasm and negative reinforcement verbally. I want to think about positive reinforcement mentally and positive reinforcement physiologically so that I can repeat the same pattern and get better at doing something at the end of the day. So that's our focus. And from that, let's get started. So I'll use the hurdles behind me. And so I'm just going to remove these hurdles. But again, these are 8-inch hurdles. This is kind of like our standard 8-inch hurdle that we use here at the gym. When we get back into the gym, you guys will get used to this. But if you're outside, it's all good. I've got 3 towels on the floor. And so a really easy lateral movement pattern that I like to do is I'll do a lateral chop through. So I've got these pretty far apart. I mean, I would guess that they're roughly 3 feet apart. So the further apart I move them, the more ground that I've got to cover, but I've got to maintain the pattern to cover that ground. So if I start here and I hit that chop through, right? Chop, chop, stop. I'm repeating that pattern. And so it doesn't turn into the chop and then you get the little chop and reboot and the little chop and reboot. So I see that a lot, especially as we're trying to build the neuromuscular pathways. And so I'll just narrow them down a little bit and put the emphasis on the 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2 stop so that we get that pattern down. And so what we'll do from a conditioning standpoint is we'll chop through and then shuffle back. So this is something that I'm going to mentally dial it in and then recover. Dial it in and then recover. So it looks like this. I'm going to chop, 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 and then I can slide, slide, slide. Chop, 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 slide, slide, slide. So I can get into that pattern where I can easily be aggressive and then have a little bit of recovery on the way back. Aggressive and then have recovery on the way back. So I can run that for 30 seconds. I can take that drill and run it for 30 seconds. Now my rest time, again, it depends on where you are in your conditioning level. It depends on how hard you can work in that 30 seconds. But I would double. I would do 2 to 1. So if I'm working for 30 seconds, I'm going to rest for a minute and then I'll repeat the opposite direction. As I want to increase my cardio, my conditioning, I'll decrease my rest periods. And so I'll almost push that to a 1-to-1 ratio where I'm working, resting for 30 seconds and 30 seconds. So that'll tighten up as I get nearer to a season where I want to keep the rest intervals low. But also that depends a lot on the coach that I'm working with, the offense and the defense that they run. There's a lot of variables that go into that. So again, I don't want to just be able to mindlessly do it. That's a really simple drill that I'm working on explosiveness, and then I can get some recovery. So I'm baking that into the cake of your conditioning program. So that's all lateral, and I like to do the same. So that's one of the drills, and I like to do the same pattern moving forward where I'm hopping and then backpedaling. So if I'm facing the gray towels, I can load up into the hips and be aggressive, stop, and then backpedal, 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 right back. Aggressive, stop, and then backpedal, backpedal, backpedal. And again, I can work through the same dynamics where I'm working on that explosive, I'm on my toes, quick, and then I'm quickly transitioning into a backpedal move, which again, it's one of those things that we rarely do from a conditioning standpoint. I don't want to say we, but I'm just kind of speaking generally about what I see. We, more often than not, do it in the gym. But from a neuromuscular pattern standpoint, I want to make sure that we're very good at running laterally, moving laterally, and running backwards. Really good challenge, and this is kind of a good mental point. If I'm videotaping you running forward, right? So I'm just using myself, I'm tracking your run down. You should be able to run backwards, and it would look like I'm running the video backwards. Your running gait should look the same forwards as it does backwards. All right, so you should be covering ground. If I'm here, you don't want to be choppy backpedaling. You want to be able to kind of get some ground as you go. So you want it to be fluid, and you want to be able to move with mechanics that has that turnover to it where you're covering ground with your back pedal. It's important that you know how to backpedal because that translates into your 180 and flip and speed. So there's a couple drills that we do that incorporate backpedaling first. So not just for defensive backs, right? Although defensive backs are going to be backpedal heavy. But any athlete as a whole has got to be able to move backwards and then flip to a sprint and then run forwards. A lot of our drills are kind of based on those mechanics. But again, that's how we tie all these pieces of the puzzle together. So that's two easy drills. And then the other two are related as well. So they're more hopping drills. And I would say, I would consider them a little bit more basketball, volleyball specific because they're hopping and moving with our feet together. And so we can even simulate taking a jump shot on one side. So if I'm here and I'm just going to do a lateral hop. So again, I keep my feet square. So I'm going to hop, 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 jump shot, and then slide, slide, slide. Right back to the beginning. Hop, 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 jump shot, and then slide, slide, slide. For those of you guys giving me shit about my jump shot, you ain't seen my jump shot yet. So let's get a basketball out and we'll go play some one-on-one. But that being said, my camera flipped. What I want to think about, let me reset here. There we go. Okay. So what I want to think about is the repeatability, right? So can I get my feet square as I hop through the hashes or the towels or the hurdles? And then can I load up and hit the jump shot off after 3 lateral jumps? So that's a really simple maneuver that I don't have to think a lot about. From a structure standpoint, I can time it. I'm not really thinking about my reps, but I'm thinking about how long am I working. And then from a repeatability standpoint, it's a really, really easy repeatable drill. So in that, I'm kind of reinforcing those mechanics again, and then I'm working through the same dynamics, right? We're moving laterally, shuffling back. One key point, and I haven't made it yet, but on all of these, as I go through the drill, whether it's a lateral chop or whether it's a hop, right? So I'm gonna hop through, and then I'm gonna slide back. I will come right back up to a square foot stop and then repeat that cycle. So again, when I come back up to that square foot stop, when I square foot stop, I'm rebooting my brain, right? So from that kind of neuromuscular, physiological standpoint, it's not a mindless, I'm gonna go right into the next drill. It is an actually thought through process where I come back up to the position. You can see my feet here. I come back up to the position, square, and go. And so when I'm square and I push in one direction, I push with both feet. If I step in and I'm just lazy and I cheat it, right? I'm not reinforcing the mechanics that we're trying to get out of that. So that is a really key factor. I'm sorry that I haven't made it just yet. Should have been top of my list, but that's part of the repeatability factor that is really important as it relates to reinforcing mechanics and then also keeping it simple. again, we don't want to turn this into a blind, just running for running's sake. We want to have purpose to it, and think structurally. Well, I'll make this point when we finish up. I got one more drill I want to show you. So the move 180, but we're still going to do, we're going to hop laterally, but we're going to do a 180 jump on the turn. So we're going to add that rotational component to it. So if I'm here, so I'm going to hop to my right. So I'm 1, 2, 3, turn, 1, 2, 3, turn. And then repeat the set, go. 1, 2, 3, turn, 1, 2, 3, turn. And if you noticed, it was continuous until I got back to the start, and then I stopped. So it's 1, 2, 3, turn, 1, 2, 3, stop. 1, 2, 3, turn, 1, 2, 3, stop. And you, again, if you notice, you continue to get into this repeatable pattern that's hugely important as it relates to your conditioning, but your repeatability and your patterns. At the end of the day, all 4 of those exercises are conditioning. So they kind of look like sports performance, but they're not, right? Because my intensity, the volition at which I'm working, is not maximal. So my intent with it is turnover. I can ramp up intensity as I get better at doing it and as I get in better shape. You can tell I did like 4 reps and I'm breathing hard already, so I'm out of shape. But the premise is it's not your sports specific, improve your vertical jump, improve your lateral push off and power. But what it does is it strengthens that undercurrent of repeatability, which leads to injury prevention and sports performance. So that's why those 2 things are critically important to be able to tie together in a coherent way, but also in a consistent way. So that's the whole platform that we're working with as it relates to this damn phone, as it relates to our conditioning work. So I'm having issues with my, I'm having issues with my gimbal here. Dude, behave yourself. Behave yourself. All right, so hopefully that makes sense. Sorry about the malfunction on the gimbal there, guys, and YouTube, sorry about it as well. We recorded this on YouTube live stream as well, so if you want to rewatch it, go there. These are really 4 simple drills that we like to use for conditioning. It would be in our work capacity category, and it's something that we use for reinforceability, repeatability, like I said, conditioning, and then also injury prevention. All those things are related. As you get fatigued, you're going to want to play high. You're going to want to play, gassed, and you'll play with less flex in your knee. So the whole premise on these is, can I play lower, longer, because you'll be stronger and you're less likely to get injured. So hopefully that all makes sense. If you guys have questions, you know where to find me. We're going to wrap up today. We covered some ground. 2 things. On Thursday, we are actually going to do an entire workout on Thursday. So Thursday will be a brief dynamic. It's going to be some explosive plyometrics. It's going to be some strength, and it's going to be some work capacity. We're basically tying in all 6 facets of our workout programs. We're going to do it in an abbreviated way. It'll be coached. I'm going to have a guinea pig here on site. Somebody volunteered to do it. And then we're literally going to take him through the dynamics of what an actual workout looks like in this space. So hopefully you guys will tune in for that. And then we'll take it from there. If you guys got questions, you know where to find me. Outside of that, enjoy your Monday. I'll see you soon. Thank you.